The unthinkable has just happened, and no one expected this. A full-scale political clash has erupted between Keir Starmer and Nigel Farage, and it didn't start with policy, votes, or legislation. It started with something far more explosive, a personal attack from a sitting Prime Minister. At a Labour Party conference, Keir Starmer crossed a line many believed he never would. Instead of criticising Reform UK's ideas, he attacked its leader directly, claiming Nigel Farage doesn't believe in Britain. Not incompetent, not wrong, but un-British.
When was the last time that you heard Nigel Farage say anything positive about Britain's future? He can't. He doesn't like Britain, doesn't believe in Britain, wants you to doubt it just as much as he does.
That single sentence changed everything. Because in British politics, accusing an opponent of not believing in the country itself is about as serious as it gets. It's not disagreement, it's delegitimisation. And the reaction was immediate. Nigel Farage didn't shout, he didn't posture, he sounded stunned. "I used to think the Prime Minister was a decent man," Farage said. "Someone I could disagree with, but still respect. That respect," he said, "is now gone."
I used to think the Prime Minister was a decent man, somebody that I could talk to and chat to. We might disagree on worldview, but I thought he was a profoundly decent human being. I am completely shocked at his behaviour. I hope when he wakes up tomorrow morning, he feels ashamed of what he has done. This is a desperate last throw of the dice from a Prime Minister who's in deep trouble, a Prime Minister who can't even command the support of half of his own party.
Farage described Starmer's words as shocking, not because they were politically clever, but because they revealed desperation. According to Farage, this wasn't leadership. It was a last throw of the dice from a Prime Minister under pressure, struggling to hold together his own party, watching Reform UK rise in the polls. And then came the moment that stunned Westminster. Before we continue, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Britain Daily. It's completely free, and it helps us keep bringing you the hard-hitting stories that matter. Back to the chaos. Farage didn't just defend himself. He questioned whether Keir Starmer is fit to lead the country at all. "I now believe he is unfit to be the Prime Minister of our country." That accusation landed like a thunderclap.
But I'm sorry to say, I now believe that he is unfit to be the Prime Minister of our country.
This wasn't Farage attacking from the fringes. This was Farage framing the Prime Minister as someone who lacks the moral authority, judgment, and restraint required to govern a divided nation. And in that moment, the clash stopped being about reform versus Labour. It became about leadership, legitimacy, and whether Britain's Prime Minister just made the biggest political mistake of his tenure.
Labour says these policies are racist and immoral, and by implication, reform supporters, reform voters, reform sympathisers are racist too. Yes, if you think we should control our borders, you are, by the definition of the Prime Minister and his cabinet, all racists. Now, I don't normally worry about abuse being thrown at me. I've got kind of used to it over the course of the last few years.
Farage framed Starmer's attack, "doesn't believe in Britain," as something darker than political disagreement. He described it as a moral failure, an attempt to delegitimise millions of voters by questioning their patriotism. And in doing so, he flipped the accusation. Who really doesn't believe in Britain? The man criticising the system, or the man presiding over rising costs, collapsing trust, and a public that feels ignored? Farage's message was clear. This wasn't about him. It was about how power treats dissent, label it, smear it, dismiss it. Because engaging with it would mean admitting something is broken. And according to Farage, that's the one thing Starmer cannot afford to do. This wasn't just a response, it was the opening shot of a much bigger confrontation. One that goes beyond parties and straight to the question Britain is now being forced to ask: who is actually fit to lead this country? What made this moment explosive wasn't just what Keir Starmer said, it was how he said it and when. By claiming that Nigel Farage doesn't believe in Britain, the Prime Minister didn't criticise a policy, an argument, or even a record. He attacked identity and legitimacy. In British politics, that's rare and dangerous. Because once you tell millions of voters that the person they support doesn't believe in the country itself, you're not debating anymore, you're othering. Farage seized on that immediately. This wasn't the language of disagreement. This was the language of exclusion. The suggestion that anyone who challenges the current direction of the country is somehow un-British. And Farage understood exactly what that signals. a governing class that has run out of answers and turned to character assassination instead. He didn't shout, he didn't rant. He sounded almost stunned. I hope when he wakes up tomorrow morning, he feels ashamed of what he has done. That line cut deep because it reframed the exchange as a question of morality, not politics. Farage wasn't defending Reform UK. He was questioning whether the Prime Minister understood the responsibility of his office. Then came the wider claim, the one Westminster really didn't want highlighted. Starmer, Farage said, is a Prime Minister in trouble, not just electorally, but internally. A leader struggling to hold together his own ranks, cabinet ministers briefing against each other, backbench frustration, quiet dissent turning into open unease. According to Farage, the personal attack wasn't confidence, it was fear. Fear of reform rising, fear of losing control of the narrative, fear that voters no longer accept the old labels and insults. And this is where the accusation of being unfit became so potent. Farage wasn't arguing. Starmer should resign tomorrow. He was arguing something more corrosive, that Starmer lacks the temperament required to lead a divided country, that instead of calming tensions, he inflames them. Instead of persuasion, he reaches for smears. In other words, Farage claimed Starmer governs like a party operative, not a national leader. That accusation lands at a dangerous time. Britain is already fractured, economically, culturally, politically. Trust in institutions is low. Faith in politics is fragile. When a Prime Minister uses conference applause lines to question whether his opponents believe in Britain, it risks turning political disagreement into something far more toxic. Farage positioned himself as the defender of those being written off. You may disagree with me, he implied. You may dislike me. But to say I don't believe in Britain is to say you don't believe in the people who support me. That's why this exchange matters. It's not about Farage versus Starmer. It's about whether politics becomes a contest of ideas or a war over who gets to belong. If Keir Starmer's goal was to weaken Nigel Farage, the result may have been the exact opposite. By turning a political disagreement into a personal attack, the Prime Minister handed Farage something he thrives on: proof of establishment hostility. For years, Farage has argued that the political class doesn't just disagree with him, it despises the people who support him. Starmer's words appeared to confirm that narrative in a single sentence. Instead of isolating Farage, the attack widened his appeal. Voters who may not agree with every Reform UK policy still recognised the tactic. They've seen it before. When arguments run out, character attacks begin. And that's why Farage's response landed so effectively. He didn't attack Starmer's accent, background, or intelligence. He questioned his fitness to lead, his judgment, restraint, and understanding of the country he governs. That contrast mattered. While Starmer spoke from a party conference stage, cheered by loyal activists, Farage spoke directly to the public, calm, measured, and visibly disappointed. The tone suggested this wasn't theatre. It was someone saying, this line shouldn't have been crossed. And politically, that matters more than any soundbite. Because once a Prime Minister is seen as using his platform to delegitimise opposition voters, trust erodes further. Every future criticism he makes can be dismissed as more of the same. Not leadership, but insecurity. This is the danger moment. Reform UK is no longer easy to brush aside as a protest movement. It's polling strongly, winning councils, and forcing uncomfortable conversations. Attacking its leader personally may energise its base rather than fracture it. Starmer may have intended to draw a dividing line. Instead, he may have drawn attention to the very divide he cannot control. Farage's final accusation, that Starmer is unfit, will echo not because of its harshness, but because of its timing. Leadership isn't just about policy, it's about restraint under pressure. And in this moment, Farage argued, Starmer failed that test. Whether you agree with Farage or not, one thing is clear. This clash wasn't just another political spat. It revealed how fragile the balance has become, and how quickly British politics is sliding from debate into something far more personal. The question now isn't who won the argument, it's whether the Prime Minister just handed his most dangerous opponent exactly what he needed. What began as a conference soundbite has turned into one of the most revealing political clashes of the year. A Prime Minister accused his opponent of not believing in Britain. That opponent didn't just hit back. He questioned whether the Prime Minister himself is fit to lead. This wasn't a normal exchange. It wasn't policy versus policy. It was a clash over who gets to speak for the country. Keir Starmer chose to draw a line between those who, in his words, believe in Britain and those who don't. Nigel Farage rejected that line entirely and turned it back on the Prime Minister, arguing that leadership is about restraint, respect, and understanding the people you govern. not dismissing millions with a slogan. Supporters of Starmer will say he was standing up for British values. Supporters of Farage will say this exposed a Prime Minister under pressure, lashing out as Reform UK gains ground. But beyond parties and personalities, there's a bigger question here. Should a Prime Minister ever question the patriotism of his opponents? Or does that cross a line that damages trust in politics altogether? Because once politics becomes about who belongs and who doesn't, debate stops, and division deepens. Now we want to hear from you. Do you think Keir Starmer crossed the line with this attack? Or was Nigel Farage right to hit back as hard as he did? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. If this breakdown helped you understand what's really going on beneath the headlines, give the video a like, share it with someone who follows British politics, and subscribe for more clear, no-spin analysis of the moments Westminster doesn't want you to focus on. Because the conversation doesn't end here, and the next clash may be even bigger.